It started with a rumor. Just a whisper carried through static on the old radios and the hushed breath of the wind. They see 2 sunrises in Elmridge now. That's what my cousin told me when she returned from a quick road trip through the sleepy 1950s-style town tucked behind old pine woods and forgotten railroad tracks. I laughed it off, blamed heatstroke. But the way she looked at me, dead serious, her lips cracked and her pupils wide like she'd stared into something too bright, haunted me for days. Then she disappeared. The postcard came 3 days later. No return address. Just a picture of a cracked sundial under 2 shadows, scribbled on the back in her handwriting. Only one sun wakes you. The other burns you alive. I had to see it for myself. Elmridge looked like a time capsule from another era. Diner with checkerboard floors, milkmen on bicycles, picket fences, all painted in faded pastels. There was no signal on my phone, no Wi-Fi, and every clock ticked just a second too slow. I parked my car beside a rusting gas pump and asked the attendant if he'd seen a girl fitting my cousin's description. He didn't speak, just pointed down the road toward the town square. Then he crossed himself. That's when I noticed his shadow was long, stretched unnaturally far behind him, even though the sun was directly overhead. By noon, I had a headache. Everything felt off. People moved in loops. One woman kept walking her poodle around the same exact block, nodding at me every time like it was the first. A paperboy tossed the same edition of the Elmridge Gazette onto porches over and over. Headlines never changed. Town fair postponed. Sheriff warns of fire risk. I finally reached the square. There stood a giant clock tower. Its hands were stuck at 6:12 a.m. No one seemed to notice. I sat on a bench, trying to piece things together, when an old man shuffled beside me and whispered, "Don't look at the second sun when it rises. Not unless you want to end like the others." I turned, ready to ask him what he meant, but he was gone. That night, I stayed at the old motel outside town, room number 5. The manager handed me a key without asking my name. "You'll want to sleep early," he said. "The second dawn's not kind." I laid awake, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding for no reason I could explain. Outside, the crickets stopped chirping. The wind held its breath. At exactly 5:49 a.m., my room lit up in orange. Not soft and warm like a normal sunrise. This was harsh, sharp, like a fire had ignited just beyond the horizon. I rushed to the window and saw the first sun, bright and golden, rising slowly in the east. But then I saw it. A second sun. Bigger, red. Climbing up behind the first like a predator stalking its prey. It cast no warmth, only a cold fear that made my skin crawl. The sky shimmered like melting plastic and shadows twisted, screaming silently on the ground. And just as quickly, the motel's power flickered, and I swear I heard voices whispering from the walls. I dropped to the floor, heart racing, pulling the blanket over my head like I was a child again. The light vanished minutes later, but the damage was done. I didn't sleep the next night. I had to know more. I had to know why this town had 2 dawns, and who was choosing who survived them. The next morning, I woke up to silence. Not peaceful silence, dead silence. Even the motel's ice machine had stopped humming. I opened the curtains slowly. The world outside looked washed out like an old photograph. No birds, no wind, just a sleepy town under a still sky. I walked into town and something felt wrong. The paperboy wasn't there this time. The woman with the poodle? Gone. Her leash lay on the sidewalk, wrapped around a street lamp like she'd tied it there, and vanished. I glanced up and saw a faint scorch mark on the nearby bricks, shaped almost like a person, mid-step. At the diner, nobody spoke. The waitress poured coffee into a cup that wasn't there. She smiled politely, nodded to no one, and walked back behind the counter. "Excuse me," I said softly, almost afraid to break the scene. She turned to me. Her smile didn't fade, but her eyes changed. They were wide, too wide. Her pupils were tiny, like pinholes in her face. "You shouldn't be awake," she whispered, voice barely a sound. "You saw the second dawn." I backed away slowly. She didn't follow, she just froze, like a puppet whose strings had been cut mid-scene. The old man from the bench appeared at the edge of the diner's window. This time, I chased him. He led me behind the diner, through an alley, and into what looked like a fallout shelter door bolted into the ground. He pulled it open, motioned for me to enter. "This is where we hide when it rises," he said. "But hiding doesn't always work." Inside, the shelter was covered in maps of Elmridge. But they weren't street maps. No roads, no rivers, just dots, some glowing, some black. My name was written near one of the glowing dots in red ink. "You see it too now," he said, pointing to the dot. "What are these?" "Souls," he whispered. Every time the second sun rises, it scans, it sees, it chooses. Those it marks burn, not always in fire, sometimes in mind, sometimes in memory. He pointed to the black dots. Those are the people no one remembers anymore. The sun erased them. I stepped back, heart hammering. Why this town? I asked. He hesitated. Then he handed me a photo. Black and white, blurry. A young girl standing in the town square pointing up at the sky. 2 suns above her, one bright, one dark. That's my sister, he said. She made a wish once, wished every day could be special, unique. The sun heard her, but not the sun we know. The other one. What do you mean? It came through, he said, voice cracking. The second sun. It wasn't always there, but she invited it. Now it won't leave. A knock echoed from above. Then another. Something, or someone, was outside the shelter door. We have to stay quiet, the old man hissed, eyes wide. A third knock. Then a voice, soft and childlike. Is it morning yet? My breath caught in my throat. The man put his hand over my mouth and whispered, If you answer. It opens. We sat in silence for what felt like hours. The knocking stopped. The light leaking through the shelter crack dimmed. Finally, I asked, Is it trying to replace the real sun? He didn't answer at first. Then, in a whisper, It already has. I ran out of the shelter just as the first sun began to rise again, golden and warm like it had always been. But the town was different. Everyone was smiling. Too much, too wide. Their eyes hollow, their skin perfect, plastic-like. The diner waitress waved. The poodle woman returned, but her dog had no eyes. The paperboy tossed a paper right at my feet. The headline read, Second sunrise delayed. One witness still non-compliant. The ink shifted as I stared at it, and the letters rearranged themselves into a new line. Run if you want. It still sees you. My phone buzzed in my pocket. No signal. But the screen lit up on its own. A calendar app opened. A notification popped up. Second dawn arrives in 4 hours, 12 minutes. The countdown on my phone hit 0. I was standing alone on Main Street. The town was too quiet, like it was holding its breath. Then I felt it, the heat, not from above, but inside. My veins itched, my vision pulsed. And then I saw it, the second sun. Not climbing up the sky like the first, but unfolding, like a flower blooming in reverse. It wasn't a sphere, it was a hole, a bright burning eye, and it stared straight at me. Shadows peeled off buildings, trees bent backwards, time slowed. People started walking backward too, repeating their morning motions in reverse. The paperboy unthrew his newspaper. The waitress stepped back into the diner, unpoured coffee. Even the old man was walking in reverse toward the shelter. Only I moved forward. Only I was awake. And the second sun saw me. I ran, heart racing. Every step pulled at reality. Street signs flickered. Asphalt stretched like rubber beneath my feet. The sun cast no shadow, only reflections. I looked into a store window and saw myself older, then younger, then dead. The second sun was eating time. I ducked into the town library. Dust floated backwards, books unflipped their pages, a globe spun in reverse. I screamed for someone, anyone, but no one heard. I wasn't just stuck in a loop anymore, I was falling through it. In the basement I found the truth. Old records, yellow journals. One, marked Project Dawnlight, caught my eye. Government files, test photos. The girl again, the old man's sister, standing in a circle of mirrors with a strange machine behind her. The experiment was real. They tried to bend time, make every day feel fresh, but they opened something instead, a crack. And what came through wasn't from here. The second dawn. It wasn't sunlight. It was a memory of a sun, a copy trying to replace the original, but imperfect, hungry, always watching, and when it fully takes over, nothing will remain but reflections. Fake lives, fake smiles, fake hope. I ran outside. The town was upside down now. The sky was below me. Roads floated in the air. People stood still like mannequins, eyes glowing with sunfire. I screamed again, "Stop!" And everything paused, even the second sun. Then, from behind me, a voice whispered, "You're ready to remember now." I turned. It was the girl from the photo, except now she looked like me. Same face, same eyes. She stepped closer. "You brought this," she said. "Your obsession, your questions, your need to understand. The second sun didn't create you. You created it." No, I shook my head. That's not true. This town, this place was already broken. Because you broke it. She stepped into the light, and so did I. We merged. I remembered everything. I had been part of the project too. I wasn't just a visitor, I was a test subject. My mind had been looping for decades. This town wasn't real. It was a sandbox. A simulation run under the second sun's influence. Every time I arrived, I was rebooted, and every time I tried to escape, the sun reset the board. But now, something changed. I remembered. I looked up at the second sun. No fear this time. You can't burn me if I'm already ash, I said. And the sun blinked. The town crumbled. Roads folded in. Buildings melted like paper in flame. And then, silence. Just black. Just me. In a white room. A monitor blinking. Status, cycle broken subject. Awake, then a knock on the wall. A real wall. A door opened, and a woman in a lab coat looked in. You've been asleep a long time, she said. Ready to come home? I stood slowly. My legs shook. I wasn't in Elmridge anymore. I never had been. The town, the suns, the people. It was all part of the experiment, and I was the last one left. As she led me down a long hallway, I turned one last time toward the chamber behind me. Inside, the screen still showed the second sun, flickering, waiting. It would rise again, somewhere, for someone else.